think that's where a lot of people go bad with a pup. They throw them in a pen and just throw feed to them every day. And to me, you got to make a connection with them. Some guys don't agree with me on that, but I think you got to have a good bond with a dog.
It's real simple, I think, with a pup, and a lot of people don't understand it. When a pup is ready to start, it will start. You can't force a pup to start, and you can't force a pup to treat. It has to do it on its own.
Okay, we're here at our 2025 Walker Days in Montpelier, Ohio, and this has become one of my favorite parts of the weekend, and it's the conversation with the legends. Today, I'm Brett Hall. I'm from Virginia. I'm on the board of directors of the Trent Walker Breeder and Fanciers Association, and I'm joined today with Gary Starnes from Ada, Oklahoma, and Doug Keaton from Lincoln, West Virginia. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
All right. And Alan came over here and told us that, or told me that if you guys start lying, that I can cut the interview off. So I told him it'd probably be a pretty short interview. Is that?
Yeah.
I thought it might be a couple hours long.
I'm from I'm from Hamlin, West Virginia.
Oh, well, you've already started.
Where Charles Yeagers was from.
Okay, well, so we've already started. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself better than what I did. Gary, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and did you grow up in Ada, or you a transplant there? Tell us a little bit about your childhood and how you got into hunting.
No, I'm Gary Starnes from Ada, Oklahoma. Been there all my life. Been coon hunting since I was 4 years old. My first UKC hunt, I was 8 years old when Dad took me, and won my cast, placed in the hunt. I've coon hunted, like I say, all my life there. We used to have the Pete DeAndre Walker hunt there at Ada. We've hunted with some of the finest hounds there are in the United States. They used to all come there, and they'd all come in early, and we'd all go hunting. You know, back then that was a big hunt. And later on in 1980, I got married to my wife Susie, who's here with me today. I've got 2 children, Cheyenne Starnes and Misty Stevens. I've got a grandson. He's all fit, ready to start. He's 5 years old. He's ready to start coon hunting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but like I say, I've enjoyed coming to Walker Days, hunting up here. You know, that was always my goal, to win Walker Days. And then back in, I don't know, the early 2000s there, I won Walker Days with Schooner River Heidi, and had another dog, Night Rockin' Brandy. I placed several years up here, just couldn't quite get there. Had another dog, Starnes Oklahoma Sadie. Probably one of the finest hounds I've ever owned, and I ended up 3rd place up there. Dick beat me out of high-scoring female. I had 1437 and a half, and I think he had 1600, and Russ come in and beat me at the deadline. It was like 2000.
And that was Dick Brothers, who you're referring
to, Dick Brothers,
right?
yeah.
And we've had Russ on here and Dick in the past. So.
Exactly, and but like I say, I enjoyed it. And then 2012, old Sadie got put in the Hall of Fame here at the Trent Walker Bunch, and so that's sort of been the goal. You know, I've come up here with some dogs I've really thought was nice hounds. Win, we've got close, just didn't quite get there. But like I say, with old Heidi, I did get there, and had a little female called Night Rockin' Brandy, and then had a male, Night Rockin' Tater. They was both the hounds, one lot PKC, UKC, CHKC. And won a truck with old Brandy in 15 and CHKC. But me and my son, we always look forward to coming up here. We used to come up here all the time with Harold Kirkus, Preener rep, and I really enjoyed coming up here. It's just a long ways from Ada, Oklahoma.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get here, Gary?
Well, we broke it up coming up here, me and my wife. It's usually 16, 17 hours, you know, but we're just down there sort of in the middle of nowhere.
Right. And I'm gonna ask you about that a little bit, because I think it's interesting that you're from Oklahoma, the mountains west of the Mississippi, and Doug and I are from Doug's from West Virginia, the mountains east of the Mississippi, and I want to ask you guys a little bit about about hunting in those areas. But first, Doug, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you grew up and how you got into hunting.
Well, I was raised in Hamlin, West Virginia. I started, my grandpa had black and tan coon hounds when I was too little to hunt. And then my uncle, he coon hunted, my one uncle, and I had two that fox hunted. I fox hunted probably when I was up to 7 years old, before my mom would let me go with my other uncle. He's a little wild. He was something else. Yeah, well, I rode in dog boxes and everything else with him hunting. If it rained or something, yeah. He had an old Rambler car. It had the screen mower tore out of the back seat, kept them in the trunk. And we coon hunted in head all the time. And we went turtle hunting one time, caught a bunch of turtles and got them out. Go to hunting next weekend, them turtles crawled up under at 90 degrees and they rotted in that Rambler car. They wasn't no hunting. But anyway, I started out hunting with him. He took me everywhere. He loved to hunt. And then I've hunted everywhere. Them hills, you know that as much as I do. It takes a man to hunt the hills. It's some of the, we all, when I was young, I walked 8 years old all night by myself hunting. I'd leave the house, walk the ridge and come back in, mom and dad. I hunted 2 or 3 nights a week through school. I had to keep my grades up. That didn't work too good, but mom covered up for me some so I could hunt. But yeah, and then, but I've hunted and I've been in this association and I was in Southeastern, but I love this association right here. I come out here, first time I ever hunted was Greencastle in this association. That was way back there. I don't remember in the late 70s or something. I hunted there, but I come up here in 2011, I think it was. And I come up here on a Wednesday. I've had Blasto had a part of my lung cut out, and they told me that I could hunt the pup hunt. I hadn't even hunted the dog. I'd been in the hospital, and a buddy of mine in Columbus hunted for me. So I drove from here to Columbus, got the dog on Wednesday, hunted it that night, and then put it in the pup hunt and won the whole thing. And I just said, God done that. I say, God help us. But I got 3 kids. I lost one 2 years ago.
We'll come back to you on that, Doug, because that's something I think is important. You know how much coon hunting has affected our lives. And Gary, one thing you and Doug both talked about how you started hunting as a little boy and shared stories, but how's the sport changed over the last few decades that you've been in it, and how the hounds changed?
Well, the hounds, one of the big changes in them, back years ago, everybody bred for a dog that could track and tree both. Now it's went to tree. You know, everybody's got a lot more coon than they used to have. And used to, down in Oklahoma, coons was pretty scarce, you know. And if you had a dog that tree a coon, you pretty well go win a hunt somewhere. But nowadays, you know, you've got coons everywhere, and dogs just want to get struck and get treed, and they're hard to beat, you know.
Yeah. And have you noticed change in the coon population in Oklahoma, just like everywhere else?
Yes, we've got a lot of coons in Oklahoma now. We're used to, you didn't have many at all.
Right.
And I know back talking about the old days there, one of the first hounds I ever had, my uncle was Bill Raines. He was one of the big Walker guys. He had the banjo, Range's banjo back there. It was Al Johnson's banjo. And that was the first dog I ever had. Made a nice hound and everything. I guess that's what got me hooked, you know, with Walker breed, is because there was lots of dogs out of old banjo out there that was outstanding hounds. But as far as coons, you know, we got coons everywhere now. Places used to, you never think about treeing a coon. You can tree. We have big scores down there. You know, it's like everywhere you go, it depends on who your guide is. There's some guides that's really got good hunting spots, and some a little weaker, you know, they'll tree a coon or two.
Right. Have you always hunted the Walker breed?
Yes. One time a guy gave me a blue tick, and I've actually hunted some dogs in the last few years just for an old man down there, and he's got some blue ticks. But I'm a walker dog guy. I always have been.
Doug, how's the sport changed since we're riding around in the back of that car with the turtles?
down home back when we was young, all you do is park a truck on one end, park another on the other end, hunt all night out that ridge. I can remember Willis McComas from West Virginia. We'd ride them mules in there and hunt, and that was something. But that's dangerous too. I know we was up there hunting one night out of ridge, and we come back out there. My uncle was maybe bigger than a mule. He had a big counterbalance. Anyway, we got out there to the big mud hole coming out of there almost 4 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, that mule went one way and he went the other, and he ended up in the mud hole, and the mule, we was 8 o'clock catching that mule. But we had some good times. Yeah.
Well, and one thing that's remarkable to me about both of you guys, and I told you we had Dick Brothers on here a few years ago, and Terry Vance is here. He was with us last year. Is you guys started out competitive in the hunts, probably when they were 3-hour night hunts, and you're still competitive these days. So, what do you think? And it may be sort of a hot button question, but do you think the changes that the sport has made, do you think those changes are for the better or for the worst, or how do you feel about that?
One thing's technology. You know, we got guys hunting now. Back in them days, probably never would hunted competition because to be honest, they didn't pay attention and listen enough. Nowadays, they just pick that Garmin up and watch that Garmin all night long. And one good thing I like about the Garmin, you can look, if you're around the river, you can tell which side of the river you're on or whatever, so you know which side to walk up. But as far as trying to call a dog off a Garmin, that's when your good handler comes in, because they eliminate that Garmin. They're listening for the dog.
Yeah, right.
And that's one of the changes that's made a lot of the hunts now, you know, especially the money hunts. You know, there's guys there that probably never would hunt otherwise, you know, if they didn't have a Garmin.
Right. Doug?
To me, you talking about the Garmins. Down home, when I was young, you went by the points and ridges. You know, you broke a limb off here and there or whatever. And you went on flat ground. If we went up in Pennsylvania on flat ground back then, you had to take a compass.
Yeah.
You know, you leave there on the tail, and pointer up, the dogs come back on the tail. That's the only way you had to get a dog back in. You didn't have him. But in them hills, I've argued with my uncle. We was up there at Elkins, West Virginia, up in the big mountains that one night, and I argued with him. I said, that can't be right. He said, it's only 2 miles. I swum the river once that night, and it was down about 20s. My pants, you could have stood them up. Anyway, the next morning at daylight, we got a ride off a guy 5 miles. I got so cold, I took the coon hides off, the shoes off, put the coon hides in my feet, froze to death. Guy gave us a 5-mile ride, and we still had 10 miles to walk to get back. So that's how bad he got me lost.
You know, talking about them changes like that, there where I live at Ada, I've been there all my life, and within 100 yards where I was raised and all. But used to down there, we just carried a compass. You know, when I first started, we used carbide lights.
Yeah.
And old Coon looked at them better than he would anything. But you could hunt all night around in there, and you got to come home. You really didn't need a compass. You just get on top of this one hill, and you can see the bright light where we was at over there. But nowadays, there's a bright light every just a couple 100 yards. You know, people's moved in out in the country and everything, made it a lot tougher, and that's made hunting a lot tougher, even up here and everywhere, because so many places people's moved out in there and won't let you hunt, you know, and it makes it tougher, especially for a 2-hour hunt nowadays. That's why so many of them's gone to an hour and a half, because to be able to have enough hunting grounds.
Well, and one thing we noticed about around the house, and Doug, you correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times those old, back in the day, you went back to the mountains to strike a coon, and them old coons learned to take and feed right around those houses too, and it makes it a lot tougher.
Oh yeah.
Doug, Gary was talking about the hounds from when you were younger. You bred a lot more for track than tree, and now that the coon population seemingly has grown, that they breed more for tree. Is that kind of what you see in the sport now?
Well, now, I'll be honest with you. Back then, it was all track. You know, if you had one dog in a bunch of tree, that's fine. Back then, you didn't have a real hard tree dog that's hard to treat. You didn't need them. One, just study where you could find them. You know, you didn't need him pounding. You didn't have him kind of tree dogs back in. If you did, they'd be getting slicks probably. Some of them blue ticks they bred back in would get a lot of wood. You know, but anyway, back in I was just, but you had to have a track dog. I had one blue tick, and he was a coon dog. And when he parked himself, he had a coon. You could count on it. I had him about 2 years. He about 10 years old when I got him. He might have got one blank. The best walker I ever had was I trained him, and I walked him. I rocked him and everything else. He wouldn't hunt. I was a pup. I hunted him every night. The first thing he ever treed was a possum. That's something I had to break him off of later. But I'd walk all night in them hills finally. And I made him mow, and when he treed, you could count on him. And he made the best dog I ever had. He was a good strike dog, but he had his head in the air, and Bandit was his name. He's the best I ever owned.
Well, and that's a good segue into, you guys have both talked about some hounds that you've owned over the years. And Gary, I'll start with you. You talked about Heidi and Brandy and Sadie. What do you think is probably the best hound you own, or some of the best hounds that you own? And do you breed your own hounds, or how do you generally do things?
Yes, we bred our own hounds, and sometimes we got what we wanted, sometimes we didn't. So if we didn't, we stepped out and tried to find something somewhere. That Sadie dog, we didn't breed her. I actually bought her off of Stan Peterson in Mineral Point, Wisconsin. He'd placed at Walker Days in Waverly, Iowa, and he'd beat Roger Rickman that night. Roger had a little female we'd tried to buy, and he wouldn't sell her because he always come down and spent about a week with us and hunted. And but he called me on Sunday after Walker Days, and he said, "Hey, I found y'all a dog." And so he told us about her, and he said, "I don't know if she can be bought, but he said if she can, she's a nice dog." So my dad got the yearbook out. He called old Stan, and he asked him about her, and Stan said, "Yeah." He said, "I'd probably sell her." He said, "What do you want for her?" He said, "Well, I'm not positive I want to sell her, but if I would," he said, "I'd take $2,250. That's back in the 90s. And he said, "I'll have to think about it." So he called us a couple nights later, and he said, "If you want to come try her, come try her." And so we went up. Me and my dad and another boy went to school with me at Coon hunting. And the last 400 miles up there, it flooded all the way. And we get there, and Stan, he had a dairy out there. He was milking cattle. He goes out, he's taking care of the cattle, and it ain't quite dark. He comes in, he says, "Hey, it ain't gonna quit raining, I don't think, so if y'all wanna go hunting." I said, "We drove all this way to Mineral Point, Wisconsin. We're gonna go hunting." Mm-hmm. And I took a little dog that was went back to Bill Range's dog, little grand night dog I had. He was a nice hound, independent. We cut them, and they leave there, and we can't hear nothing. It's raining, storming. Used a Garmin, or trackers back then, and we seen this tree, so we drive around, get over in their tree, had a coon. Make a long story short, we cut them twice that night, found them both that way both times. Second time they split, both had coons. And Stan said, "Hey," he said, "I've talked to them guys on the Walker board, said y'all's pretty good people. Said if you want to put the money up with me, take her and hunt her for 2 weeks. If you like her," he said, I'll cash your check. If not, put her on Plain Center in Madison, Wisconsin." I said, "Okay." So we load her up. We drive all the way home. We get home there about 4 o'clock in the evening, and laid down and rested a little bit. Dark come, we took them hunting again. We made 2 drops, treed 4 coons. Dogs were split both times. I told Dad, I said, let's just send call Stan and tell him to send the papers. Nah, he said, "Let's hunt her a night or 2. We've done that 3 nights in a row. And Dad called him, said, "Just send us the papers." And so he did. Back in, that's when you had to have a letter's note with your easy entry card to hunt a dog in somebody else's name. And so he'd sent a letter with it, and I hunted her up there, Cromwell, Oklahoma, which is about an hour from me, a little over. And I scored 775 with her, won first. That was a big score in Oklahoma, you know. And then we get the papers and everything the next week. I sent them in with a rush order, and we get them back. I went on there and won Oklahoma State. I won big PKC hunts in Oklahoma. Just a lot of different hunts with her, you know. I mean, she's a natural. And it wasn't nothing for that dog to score 1,000, 1,200 points there, you know. But back then, a lot of them guys had been putting feeder buckets out, you know. And you was treeing a lot of coon because you kept your coon concentrated. We don't have the farming land like they got up here, you know. Now you turn loose on the farm deal up here, you tree lots of coons. Well, that feeder bucket deal sort of helped down there, you know.
Right.
Because people don't like to come to a place and not tree coons, you know.
Right.
So it's really helped us there. And then, but like I say, then I thought I was going to win Walker Days with her. It all bit to dust. But the little Brandy dog I had, now she was a winner too, her and that Tater dog.
Now, how was the Sadie dog? How was she bred up?
She was out of Terry Daniels' Willie dog. And then no female that Stan had there. So they were pretty well bred dogs, you know,
right.
Sort of same line there.
And what about Brandy? How was she bred?
Brandy was out of a brother to Ball's Harry dog.
Right.
And a female was out of Mike Dahoney's dog. And she was a fine hound too. Both them two was nice. I mean, you didn't care who you drawed. You knew you had a chance to win. You know?
Right.
Never give up because they made things happen. Yeah.
And Doug, I know you've owned some really good ones over the years. I know for a fact because I ran a Purina race with you one year.
Yeah.
And you had Dennis that year.
I had, but I was going to tell you the biggest thing that changes in these dogs from back then to now. Them 2,000 scores that they used to bring in, that be no more. So nowadays, these guys want these dogs separated. They'll beat them, shock them, whatever. They don't want a dog to back another dog. And when you split all these dogs up, you burn up all this time.
Right.
You know, I think that's the biggest reason you don't have the big scores like you used to. And as far as Dennis, when I won that pup on here, Kenny won the Lee Crawford with Miss Milo the same year. And the legend dog, I hunted him here in one hit. I finished him out that year, hunted him at the Grand American, one down there with him. Then he was stowed off of me, and it busted me. I started out with a jip off a buster too, and Brett hit the nailer, and I Brett hit the Clay, Charles Creek Clay, Dick's dog, and out of them, I bred to Rube. And Rube's what that dog, Rube's was the mommy, and Albert Prissy, two dog of mine, is what I bred to Trackman and got that legend dog. And then, while I was down, Leonard McCormick, the guy that run out here with me, my buddy, he told me, he said, I know where there's a dog at, down in Kentucky. And Herman Bolin had him. And I said, I don't know, I was about ready to quit. He said he's supposed to be a coon dog. And I said, all right. We rode down there to the man. And here's what he told me. He said, I'll tell you two things about the dog before you buy him. He'll get your picture taken, and he'll kill you. That's what the man told me. And believe me, the man didn't lie.
He was right, wasn't he?
He was right. That dog would kill you.
Now, was that Mac or Dennis?
Dennis.
That was Dennis.
Yeah, that was the Dennis dog. That's the reason I bought him, because that's the reason I bought Dennis, because they stole Legend.
Right.
That's when I just about quit.
Right.
Mac was born about the time I was hunting Dennis in the Purina. I didn't get to hunt him. I had good friends like Josh Davis up here. He hunted him some. My buddy and I hunted him. Several people hunted him because when you're hunting a Purina race, I worked construction. I was 5 and 6 days a week out of town. I'd leave, go from a hunt and be gone, even on to see my family very little bit. It was hard to do it, I'm telling you. And I didn't go to just the ones up north. But yeah, Dennis, he was the type of dog, when I don't care where you cut him, he would not be with a dog. You cut him out through there, he'd always lock up and go right between your legs behind you. He didn't care. And when he treated, he's going to be by himself, and he would, and I guarantee you it wasn't going to be close. He'd treat a couple of coons a night, and he'd have him. He was accurate.
Right.
He was out of Medley's dog. He's out of Homer, and he was out of Double Swamp Bitch, and he was the real deal.
And I know you had a lot of success with him in the Purina race. You won a few state hunts, right?
Well, I won 3 state championships: Minnesota, New York, and West Virginia. And I never lost a cast in 2 years in West Virginia with him. Yeah, he was just a plum. Well, I'll come in second the first year in the walkers in the prenup. Your dog beat me out. The next year I won the prenup race after that. But he was just a coon dog. I mean, I can't take no credit for him. The old man Ashby down in Kentucky trained him from a pup, from turn loose kings in town, and he was just a coon dog. Yeah.
Well, and I know both of you guys between you have owned dozens of really nice ones over the years. What are you hunting now, Gary?
I've got a little female right now that, she's not really my kind of dog, but anyway, she goes back to Mike Walt's dogs. And she's a pretty fair little hound if you're in Coon. She'll still miss some Coon, you know. Back when we was talking about those dogs we owned, you know, I left out one dog. In 2000,
yeah, go ahead.
2015, those gentlemen I hunt these blue dogs for, I just hunt them, you know, get them going for him and everything. His name's Tyler Collins down in Wheeler, Texas. He'd been hunting with me and old Brandy a lot. You thought he owned her. I mean, and when the year that I won that truck, I was debating on whether to even enter it for this $1,000 entry fee, you know. He called every day. He'd call, "You got that dog entered?" I'd say, "No." So finally, he said, "I put a check in the mail for $1,000." He said, "Just go enter that dog." Well, we go down there and I win the truck, you know. And I called him. I said, "Toby, I won that truck. How we gonna divide it?" He said, "I don't know. You figure out a way." So about a week, I don't hear from him. I used to hear every day. He called and he said, "I tell you what, just cut that truck in half. And I'll keep whichever half you don't want." I laughed, and anyway, he told me, he said, "You got $1,000?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Just mail me a check, you keep the truck." But he's a good old man, I'll tell you. Closest thing to a dad I've had other than my dad. And so anyway, we'd come up here and hunted up here all the time, and then we'd go to different places hunting in UKC, CHKC. And we'd draw Brian Whitty's blaster dog, and he liked him. And that one night, we'd won a couple times, beat him a couple times, and he beat us one night down there in Mississippi at Winter Classic. Toby went trying to buy that dog. Next year we went to CHKC World, and he bought the dog. And we took him back to Oklahoma. We won with him all over down there and everything. The old dog's about 13-year-old. Last December I won the Battle of Breeds there at Ada with him. I didn't have nothing to hunt. Female was in heat and everything, so I hunted him. I've hunted him in some other hunts down there and won them recently with him. He's just one of them kind of old dogs. He just get struck and get treed. He's going to be by himself. And like Doug said, when he parked it, you could load the gun. I know Jody had won that Perina race with him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we all see him.
Yeah.
He won it 7 times.
Yeah.
I know I run it one year with that Sadie dog till I run out of time to get off work. And we was leading it when I run out of time. And so finally I said, heck with it, that's a rich man's game, you know. Then I forget what year it was, old Harold Kirkus used to be the Perina rep. He had an English dog there. And he called me. He said, "Hey, I qualified this dog for the world." He said, "Could I get you to take him up there and hunt him about 35 nights till the zones gets there and hunt him for me?" I said, "Sure." Long story short, I hunted that dog for him for about 4.5 years. We won with him everywhere. He looked like a walker dog, but he was an English dog. And there in July, Harold said, "How about us running that Perina race?" I said, "All right." So we started going every weekend. And we come in second place in the Perina race. Won the English part, you know. Well, that made Harold's day because he was all excited. You know, he's a Perina guy. And but like you say, just over the years, I've been able to have some good hounds to hunt. My dad trained dogs for a living when I was young, so I had a good teacher. I'll just tell you.
Right.
Yeah, you talking about the Perina? I was down there 50 points. I had 50 points up on the dogs going in the final hunt, sitting in the motel, and Alan called me, he said, "I hope you're in Mississippi." I said, "Why?" He said, "I'm taking 50 points away from you because you judged the cast of our 3-dog cast, neither one of the other guys to judge it." Well, Gardner's got handlers. He knew that you couldn't, and I really didn't know about it. And I handled, so he took 50 points. That made us all even going out.
Oh, no.
Yeah, on the final hunt. But I ended up winning it. But I never hunted very many hunts that year. That dog, I just hunted the ones up north. I couldn't make him long ones way down south. But yeah, we mentioned a few hunters. Or Jody, they just lost him 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was a good friend. He partnered up with me on dinner serve when I run it, and that made him 7 times the winning it.
Jody was a heck of a competitor too. When you drew him, you had to beat Jody.
Well, he was smart about it. The man had a good head on him. He's got a brother Terry, and his mother left behind. I know his mom's having a hard time now. Yeah, that Farina race is tough. I want to mention the best male and female I probably hunted with in my time. I mean, it deserves credit. Mr. Clean, I drawed him at Autumn Oaks that year he won it. I went out and the dark side was in the final cast. I went on the final cast and cleaned him. That's all they are to it. Mm-hmm. He was a nice hound. And Miss Milo, Kenny Mason had the Nestle boys won everything the year before, the Lee Crawford too. And then turned around and Kenny won the Lee Crawford after he bought her the next year. And she was one real fine hound. And the other time was Wayne Northfleet. I drawed Wayne out of Columbia City. I come up with a buddy of mine. He's going to hunt his, and one night I was hunting register. We drove out. Stylish White Girl was his name, and she had a stylish queen. Wayne Northfleet was hunting. She'd won $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. Well, them guys hunting old pot-licking registered dogs. I'm telling you, it was awful. We turned loose. That dog went over there and treed, and the other 2 treed, and we went over and she had a coon in the bush. The other dog barks up her and he cuts her loose. She goes another, limp his table tree in another bush. They're still barking through the fence. She get plussed again. And then after that, she treed 9 singles by herself. I mean, and all of them, less than 2 minutes after time was in, she was treed on all of them, 7 minutes to a tree. And the last tree, he had around 2,000 or 21. He said, I don't want to turn loose. Beller just scored 19 the night before. I said, you're turning that loose. Well, the man that got Beller in the building barns, the 82-year-old man was guiding us. He knows how to guide. He took us down and we backed up and we got out the last place. Seen 8 coons sitting up over the truck. Dog went 150 yards. We walked in there and there stood a possum in the bush. The first thing I see, it was right beside us. But he ended up with 23 or something. I don't know. But that dog deserves credit, you know.
Right. Yeah, and I echo what you say about Mr. Clean. He was one of the best to ever walk. As far as
I know. Me and Cheyenne come up here. We was wanting a pup out of him. We went out on a cast with Brian and them either 2 or 3 different times, you know, and he was all business. The blaster dog was just like him. They just gonna go their way, get struck, get treed, and you know he was a nice hound.
Yep.
I know you're talking about Northfleet now. That Molly dog they had. She was a granddaughter of old Sadie.
Yeah. Okay, the Sadie dog.
Mill Creek Molly.
Yep.
Them boys are tough hunters.
Yeah, they are.
Tough, honest hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough, honest hunters.
I want to talk a little bit about the geography, and this is something that I like to see when we do this, is where different guys are from, because it seems to me like, you know, the Midwest is what kind of draws your hunters. They have a lot more guides, a lot more places to facilitate a big hunt, and quite frankly, they've got the coon population.
Exactly.
You know, nobody wants to come to mine and Doug's part of the world and have any kind of hunt. Do you guys see that? And you're from the mountains in Oklahoma. Do you guys see that as a challenge, or something that if you've got a good hound in Oklahoma, he's going to do good in the Midwest? Or what have you guys seen over the years? Do you think it's more about the dog, more about the hunter, or more about the geography?
I'll tell you, it takes a good dog to win anywhere. We'll use Rick Stretch as a prime example. I've brought him up here a lot, you know, and everything. We've always talked. And one night I'd won with old Brandy up here. And, well, I'd won about every year I brought her up here. I placed her. And then I won down there in my country, and Rick posted on Facebook and said, well, you hunt in your backyard. I said, Rick, I've won more in your country up there than I have mine in your back door. You know, but she was one of them kind of hounds, her and old Sadie and Tater and them dogs and Blaster. Them good dogs gonna win anywhere you take them.
Right. Doug,
That's just like my last dog. He just died in December, the Mac dog. It didn't matter. I train you. I think any dog that comes out them hills and out rough country,
Tough.
they're tough. I don't care. I mean, you got to put them. You got us. We put them in a hive. We put them in high walls. My dog's been in the swamps. You know, you got to hunt a dog a little bit everywhere to make. But if you get one of them hills right and you bring them out, they're going to make it. But the Mac dog, he was off the legend dog I had stole, and his mommy was out of a jip I had off a cutter. Went back to the same thing. He was 4 generations, 6 on one side and 4 on the other. My own dogs, and I placed him reserve world champion, ACHA, top 16 of the AKC, and then I won Zone 5 in 2020 with him. My buddy David Koch was partners on me with him, and I got to give him a lot of credit because he could hunt some of the hunts that I couldn't, and he was partners on me, and he done a good job. But I think if you got a coon dog, I don't think it makes any difference where you hunt.
Yeah, you guys mentioned Whitted. He said a coon smells the same in Mississippi as it does in Michigan, and
He's one of the honest. I'll tell you what, I respect. Here's what I respect out of Brian. You're hunting. You hear everything else and that. Brian said, clean striking, clean treeing. And that's all you get out of Brian.
That's it.
Yeah. That's all you hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that you guys both of you bring a unique perspective to is both of you have administrative roles. And I think what a lot of people miss is just like this board, we meet multiple times a year. Some of these guys travel 12, like you said, 12, 14, 16 hours to come to a meeting to try to make sure that Walker Days is a success and that the administration is a success, the association is a success. And Doug, I know I'll start with you. You were on this board and Southeastern board at the same time, is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what goes into that and how important you think that is in the world of coon hunting.
Well, I love the Walker Association. I love the Walker dog. And if we don't support them, they ain't going to be here. We got to support our clubs. But this Walker Association, when I first got in it, was great. And it's still, my heart's in this place right here. I love it. Southeastern, it's a good association too. It's a lot of travel, and me working out of town too. It was a lot to do, but only one meeting a year or something. But I do anything for the association. I sold memberships at the Grand American every year for them, and I look forward to it. And I got to hunt, and it was a good time. But I think the association, we just need more people.
Right. Yeah.
You got to be in the coon place. Yeah. Like at our house, who'd want to hunt there?
Me and you.
I got Peter buckets now.
Gary, I know you do the Battle of the Breeds each year. You run at least one club out there. Yeah. Same question to you about how important you think that this administrative role is and our membership.
It's a big deal. Like I say, I served on the board up here for years and then become president of the association up here. And like I say, it's a long ways up here. But one of the good points I can say about it, I've met some good people being on that Walker board coming up here. People you always hear and people talk about, they say, well, this guy's a good guy, this guy's a crook, whatever. When you're on that Walker board, you get to know all these people. You get to know the true person.
I think we all been called a crook.
Exactly, especially Doug.
Anybody hunting a dog that's won more than one time been called a crook somewhere.
Well, I tell you, that's just like the night I won Walker Days. On that late round, man, it was coming a flood and storming. Rob Gettings was on that board at that time. He come out here, and he was one of them that went on the cast with us all. And but anyway, we listened to my son and Joe Lumacek was there, and we go out there. We had 4 pretty nice hounds there. Heidi wasn't a good strike dog, but these dogs, just to be honest, they left their babbling running down a woven wire fence. And I finally hear her. She's done down to the end of the section down there. Crossed it, went across over in another place, and we get treed. We had a coon, and then we recut them. She skips on across into another patch of woods, and it's coming a hard flood. Rob Gettings is sitting there at the pickup with Cheyenne and Joe Numachek. Joe's treated her about 4 times, sitting there at the truck. Rob says, I see why Gary's handling that dog instead of you, Joe. Well, anyway, they go across over there, and Heidi's all by herself. We just got 3 or 4 minutes left in the hunt. She gets treed, I tree her. This one guy says, Rick Emery was the judge, and he says, that dog's not treed. I drew her the other night, and she's a ball mouth tree dog. I said, that's what she still is, just a short ball mouth. I said, she's not a chop mouth tree dog. But I said, she'll be there when we get there. She's not moving. Rick said, well, I've got her treed for 125. We're heading that way. So we take off, and we get there. Hunt's over with. And he says, you want to look by yourself? I said, yes, me and you. It's a den tree. Not a very big tree, den. I go to squalling, and he come up and looked at me. He didn't see him. I said, there he is. And he says, I didn't see him, Gary. This other guy says, well, that's what everybody always says. That's how they win. I said, fella, this coon come look once that quick, he'll look again. I squalled him. He come running out of there then. He said, plus her up, hunt's over with. And, but, just things like that, But since I've been on that board up here and been president, I've made friends with people I never would have known otherwise,
right.
And there's some good people.
Right.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing to it. I can go right now in any state and probably lay my head down at night because of this association. I got Danny Carr and Red and them over in Pennsylvania and Jim Farmer. I got my camper over there. I've had it over there several years. I can go over there and go hunting. The Nestle boys out here, you won't find better people than them to hunt with. And down south, I could go in. Well, Mike's sitting there. They just so many good people in this Walker Association that really care about it.
Yep.
And I mean they do. And they'll treat you right. I've never been treated any better than I have been by people in this association.
I agree. So this is my favorite part of the conversation with the legends, and I started this a few years ago with when Dick Brothers was on the show and on the conversation. I want to hear a coon hunting story, and we've shared a few, but I want to hear a good one. And Doug, you have to tell the one about the bag limit and the game warden there.
Oh, you want to hear that?
Yeah.
Anyway, back there we had a real bad game warden. I mean, he was bad on everybody. He walked a mile in there to get you a ticket. Anyway, we was hunting one night, me and my uncle, and we was hunting. We killed one we should have. You'd only allowed 2. We had 4. We couldn't help it. Anyway, we said we'll fix that old game warden. So we went down the road. I had one unskit laying in the back of the truck. That old game warden pulls us over. He jumps out there and looks at that, pulls the gun out, looks at it, and the hole flew out of it. He's all over the ground. I said, buddy, that's what I killed it with. Anyway, and then when he pulls off, I said, now we can get them 3 out of that windshield water. We had that old Ford truck. That old windshield wiper didn't work on it anyway. We crammed them old hides down the head.
And he never did get you, did he?
No, he never did.
That may be one time Doug told the truth, Gary. He
He
finally came out.
Don't ask me in front of him, man.
Gary, how about you? You got one you can share with us?
Not like that.
Whether it's about a cast or just something memorable.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the casts I really remember was at Columbia City. I believe that's where we was at. And I drew Kenny Mason, had the Hard Rock Cafe dog. Hard Rock Cafe was a nice hound. He's a little tight mouth, but I'd hunted with him a lot, drawn him at Walker Days and different places, and he'd brought him to the World Hunt back there in '98, I believe it was. And but anyway, it come down to me and Kenny. The other 2 guys, it took a slick. We was pretty tight there. And we go to the last drop. We had 10 minutes, and Puckett Boy was the one that was our guide. And so anyway, we go up there with 10 minutes to go. We tree a coon down there. He asked me, he said, you want to lead them down there to that timber to turn loose? I said, man, at home I never lead mine. I said, I just cut them when I get out of the truck. He said, well, that's good with me. He said, I don't either. So we cut them. I hear that jip of mine far down there, and she trails around there. And about that time, just as she's locating, Kenny's dog's opening. I struck, shut him out. I retreated, shut him out. Anyway, we walked down there. Time we get there and find the coon, we had about 3 minutes left to hunt. And I said, "You gonna walk this out, Kenny? It's 3 minutes." He said, "I can't win walking it out." I said, "Well, Kenny, I'm not being smart, but you can't win anyway unless you tree 2 coons on me. And that ain't gonna happen in 3 minutes." Yeah, but he said, "We better just turn loose, you know." So we drive up the road, probably half, 3/4 of a mile. We seen 4 or 5 coons cross the road. We get up there though, and we pull over. The boy said, "Right here, y'all just cut him in that timber." So we cut him in the timber. She fired just about the time she hit the timber. And just boom, boom, just like that, she is treed. I tree her. Kenny gets struck, trees. We walk in there. Hunt's over with us. We're walking in. We went down a little draw-like deal there and come up. And when we started up, Kenny pecked me on the shoulder. He said, "Gary," he said, "Congratulations." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "She's a coon dog." He said, "You know, I don't mind getting beat by a coon dog." And he said, "She's a coon dog." And I always remember what Kenny said that night, because when we was at the Walker meeting, Kenny Mason's the one that nominated old Sadie for Hall of Fame.
Well,
He said she's as good a female as I ever went in the woods with.
that is really, really.
Well,
really.
and I'll tell you, Kenny Mason's one of the best helmets
He
that ever come out
he
of
is.
it, and the finest. You went off missing it. Not the guy leading the dog. He's a good man. Yeah.
I agree.
I drew him several times with a female I had there when he had Molly.
Miss Milo.
Miss Milo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I beat him twice, and he beat me once, I think it was. But she was a nice female.
Yep.
Yeah, she was. I'd like to see her get in the Hall of Fame maybe next year.
Yeah. You know, you was talking about Jody there, being a handler, good handler and all that. I don't never forget one night me and him drawed out. I think it was up here in Indiana when we drawed out. And this judge asked him, said, "Is your dog moving?" He just sat there. A little bit later, the guy said, "I'm going to have to manage your dog." Said, "Your dog's moving." He said, "That's fine," just like that. We walk into the next tree, and he's got his dog treed, but his dog ain't there. And that judge said something about it. He said, "Hey, fella, it's not my job to judge his cast. I'm not judging it. It ain't my job to tell you when my dog's moving or when he ain't." He said, "That's your job." I'll never forget Jody that night.
Jody was one of those. He knew what strike he had to have, and he knew what tree he had to have, and he'd figure out a way to get it.
He would, yeah.
Yeah, he was good. He was a good handler.
Yeah, he sure was. Doug, you talked a minute ago, and I know we couldn't do this sport without people to support us, and we're coming to a close here, and I want to open it up to you guys for any additional comments you want to make or people you'd like to thank. And Doug, we'll start with you.
Well, first off, I want to thank God. That's the main one I want to thank.
Absolutely.
Because 2 years ago I was in that bad wreck, and I was paralyzed my left side, and I was coming back. And God blessed me enough, and I even entered the hunt last night. I had a withdrawal after a couple of drops because it busted me, but I did make it to 3 trees, and that was pretty good. So I want to thank him and just everybody. And then I lost my son 4 months before I got in that wreck, and that was tough. But I just remember that we're all in this sport together, and we all got to support each other. And at the end of the day, we all need to be friends, because none of these dogs out here worth having bad trouble over. They ain't surely one worth cheating on. I mean, they ain't worth the. I mean, if you got to win like that, you can't walk. You got to hide outside. That ain't no good either. That's all But I want to thank God for everything for me, because I've really had a tough time.
Yep. Gary?
You know, I'd like to thank the good Lord too, because He's been good to me. Me and my family. I'd like to thank my family. You know, they've always been supportive of me. We've probably done without sometimes so I could go to hunts. And later on, my wife got to where she comes to the hunts with me and everything, you know. And my son, there was lots of times he would hunt in those hunts, take care of the dogs while I was gone. And, that means a lot, because like he said, somebody's got to keep those dogs tuned up, ready to go when you go to a hunt. There was times I couldn't, and there were some times that we had some other dogs we was trying to run some races with, BKC and other things. And Cheyenne, my boy, he would always keep the dogs hunted up. While I was going to the hunt, he'd take care of them. Back in them days, years ago, we fought game chickens when it was legal in Oklahoma. And
West Virginia too.
somebody had to stay home and take care of those chickens. So usually it was either Cheyenne or my wife.
Right.
Because my dad, had passed away. And so in order to keep fighting those chickens and send them to Guam, Philippines, we had to, somebody had to take care of everything. So like I say, the good Lord's been good to us. My family has. And like I say, I've enjoyed being around all these Walker people up here, though, because I've met some good friends. I probably never would have known the biggest majority of these people otherwise, because most of them never come to the South, you know. The Gettings, Frank and Rob and them, man, they're as good a people as you ask for. And this board's got a lot of good people on it.
And his dad's a good man. I always like seeing his post. He hunts them hills all the time.
Yes, he does. Hard hunter.
Oh, I don't see how he does.
I remember I'd come to Walker days up here, and he wouldn't be hunting in the hunts. He'd be pleasure hunting with these guys. We'd leave to draw out on the cast. No Frank and them guys would leave. And we'd be sitting around here when we got in waiting on the hunt results. It'd be daylight. Frank and them guys just be coming in from pleasure hunting. They hunt all night. And like you say, these two guys, Michael and Dwayne sitting over here, they was on the board when I was on it. They was both good hands. They both helped you out any way you needed it. If something come up and you needed some help, just give them a holler. Alan, all them guys. And so it's been nice and associated with the Walker Association.
Well,
I've been a member since back in the 70s.
Right. Both of you guys hit the nail on the head, thanking the good Lord. I mean, that's number one. I want to thank the Tree and Walker Brooder Fanciers Association for creating a forum like this, and I want to thank Clayton Stark for facilitating it, because this is really the only thing that I know that it's exactly like this, where we can sit down with some guys, and we can truly, both of you guys are absolutely legends. I mean, no doubt about it in every respect of the word. And we're celebrating you and what you have done in your history and with dogs, and a lot of people don't get to sit down and talk this way, and I really appreciate the board and Clayton and everybody who facilitates this.
Well, hold on a second. A while ago when I was talking about Jody, talking about them guys you hunt with, there's a guy right here in front of us, Terry Vance. I was judging the cast one night, and I asked him the same thing about his dog moving. I knew his dog was moving, but I thought he was going to say something. I said, "Is your dog moving?" He said, "That's your job to judge me." I said, "You're minus." He said, "Okay."
Yeah, right.
I drawed him one night too. He had a good dog.
He always hunts a good dog.
I drew him last night, and he fought me until after the cast was done. Most people fight you until the end of the cast. He fought me until the cast was over. He said, "What you spectator doing leading your dog?" I said, "The hunt's over with, Terry. You can't beat me now."
But hey, it's hard to believe through these old dogs that we make the friendships you do. If you look out here, how many friends we got, and you can count on them. I mean, I've got some real good friends, and it's all because of this association. I wouldn't have met them. I appreciate it.
Well, that's
I'd like to thank Tree and Walker Bunch for putting this on.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
I know I've listened to them over the years. The conversation's been held up here, and never dreamed about being up here, being one talking. So I want to thank y'all.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
It's wonderful to have you. I think we had a great conversation, and that's Gary Starnes of Ada, Oklahoma, and Doug Keaton of Lincoln, West Virginia. Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
He ended up treeing 7/10 of a mile. Had my light on coming in, and he had another coon. So turned him loose 3 times. He had 3 coons.
Ah!